I mean, until we see ICE completely out, th- Operation Metro Surge is still here. We don't know the numbers, but we are active in rapid response groups and patrol groups, and we are still seeing ICE coming, hundreds of ICE vehicles coming in and out of the federal Whipple building. And
Mm,
so it's active and it's there. I think they are changing their tactics and their strategy, right? It's easier for ICE to spot people who are alone, maybe taking the bus to work, right? And so they're I believe they're trying to go to different communities who are less resourced and less trained. That's why they're moving further out into the suburbs. They're trying to go to like deep like suburbs, right? Where there isn't as much mutual aid and there isn't as much training for people, and they're trying to spread it out. And I think they're also trying to this speaks to more of the nationwide ICE problem, and this is why it's not just about ICE out of Minnesota. No, it's about abolish ICE, because I do also believe that they are spreading out throughout the nation strategically, trying to be more incognito about the way that they move. They have been changing how they even look. They're going to restaurants in plain clothes, posing as civilians, going to grab something to eat at a Mexican restaurant later on, getting whatever intel they need, going back, suiting up, coming back to that same restaurant to abduct people, right?
mm,
And so they're wearing regular clothes that we normally wear. They are wearing whistles around their necks to blend in. They're putting anti-ice bumper stickers on their vehicles and what have you. And so they're really just smartening up their tactics. And that's why it's really important that we don't let up and we don't lose momentum in these moments, because if we do lose momentum and we get comfortable, we are at a greater risk and we are more vulnerable in these moments. Hasn't left, and even if there was 500 ICE agents, some people will be like, "Oh, that's great, we won." No, we didn't win, because
no,
if there's
that's not
500,
good. Right, yeah.
that's not that's terrible, right? But also the thought of, okay, we had 3,000 ICE agents here in the Twin Cities, right? And we handled that. They didn't expect us to handle it that the way we did. Um, the administration wanted us to uprise like we did in 2020, and they were expecting us to raise hell.
Mhm.
And we knew they were trying to trap us into that. And that's why this has been a very peaceful response, because we were like, wait a second, we know what you're trying to do. We're not dumb. A lot of these Trump people are really stupid, right? And we're like, oh no, we're not dumb. We're actually not gonna take the streets and burn shit down. That was an effective strategy in 2020. This time around, it's different, because they're trying to invoke the Trump administration is trying to invoke the Insurrection Act and declare martial law and deploy the federal military onto U.S. soil so they can break into people's houses and violate our Fourth Amendment, our constitutional rights and whatnot. And so we were like, no, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to respond to this in a totally different way, in a really strategic way. And they weren't anticipating that, and they were like, oh snap, like Minneapolis responded the way they did. We kind of built a framework for other cities to adopt, saying, hey, this is the most effective way to push back against ICE. Here's what worked for us. Take this framework. Probably going to look a little different in each city, depending on the landscape and depending on the community and whatnot. Right. But we developed this like framework. So we're like, okay, we can send all of this to the next cities. Right. Because the idea of ICE leaving, and they're not going to completely leave. I think before the whole surge, we had about 150 ICE agents here, just on the regular. But the idea of 3,000 ICE agents leaving Minnesota and going to a different community that might not be as skilled and trained and resourced is fucking terrifying. You
Right.
know, it's that shit is scary. So we're like, okay, how can we m- make stronger nationwide connections? And that's an important piece to this all, because this is not just about Minnesota. And it's cool to see that there's a lot of solidarity outside of Minnesota too. Like seeing that has been really cool. And time to start building coalitions, building stronger connections as a bigger community here.